Okay, so as people start joining in, feel free to just add where you're joining us from. So officially, we'll get started. So welcome everyone. As you know, this is the world tour, right? So now we are in Miami, and we are friends of Figma Miami, right? We started this group like 5 years ago. So personally, I can guess introduce ourselves, who we are. We're the people that you're seeing in camera. Myself, I'm Beto Navarro. I'm a senior product designer at Amazon. And yeah, we are all based in Miami, obviously. Jackie, can you present yourself?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Benzic, and I am based in Miami, Florida. I am a UX, UI, and digital marketing manager over at Miami Waterkeeper. Jonathan.
Thanks, Jackie. Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan. I am a senior product design manager over at DocuSign. I work remotely from Miami, Florida. So I am very excited to be here and to see everybody from joining us from across the world.
All right. So yeah, we're super passionate about creating spaces where designers can join and connect. Personally, at least in Miami, we try to do. If you're here in Florida, we try to do this every quarter, like events in person. So I think there's a question: when is our next event? I think probably will be around September, October. I think, Jonathan, you
Mhm.
can correct me. But yeah, so we're trying to make this happen more often in Miami as well. But yeah, we're very, very happy that you are joining us from all over the place in this world tour that we are part of. So,
All right, guys. So, welcome to our very first World Tour 2025. This is actually a 24-hour, non-stop virtual celebration of Friends of Figma community around the world. And this event is built on true global collaboration. So every participating Friends of Figma chapter hosts their own 1 hour session. And it's usually featuring local speakers, local insights, and community-led content. Our goal is to celebrate the richness and diversity of our global community while making these sessions accessible to anyone, anywhere. And it's a powerful reminder of what we can do together. So, welcome, everyone.
That's right. And with that, we are very excited to introduce our speaker of the day. He is a Miami native, a designer who I truly admire for his experience, his contributions to a lucky community, and actually, he's a very loyal Friends of Figma Miami participant. He's been to many of our events. So, with that, please help me welcome Mathew Figueroa. He is currently working as a senior product designer at Verizon, and he has worked at companies such as Disney, Carnival's Cruise Lines, and Popeyes, among others, which I'm sure you'll hear more. And today, Mathew will share insights on the limitations of using AI in a corporate setting, which I'm sure those of you who are in a corporate setting can probably relate. And maybe he's going to be sharing some tools that maybe work around these limitations and maybe how these tools can be used in our day to day. So, with that, Mathew, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Jonathan. I'd like to just start off by saying this is quite an honor being a participant and being able to speak with more than 20 plus peers right now. I highly recommend if you have a local Friends of Figma chapter and you have something you're curious and interested to talk about, definitely sign up and be courageous to talk about it because it's a great opportunity. And with that, let's learn a little bit about the guy behind the camera, Matt, who's going to be talking to you today. So it all starts with I started studying studio art at Florida State University for about 3 years, right? There, I learned a little bit about creative problem solving and how difficult it is to actually make it as a fine artist, right? If you want to have a good, safe, secure income. So I learned to dive into graphic design. And that's where I became a graphic designer for the Florida Lottery for about 3 years. And during my time there, COVID had hit. So it gave me an opportunity to move back in with my family here in Miami and think about where I wanted to take my career path. And that way was UX design, right? So I did a 6-month boot camp where fortunately after that with the University of Central Florida, I was able to find my first career as a UX designer with Carnival and then some other companies that we're going to be looking at right after this. I started off at Carnival and I worked there for about 9 months, really working on the apps that users were interacting with on the ship, right? Anything that related to communicating with your friends and family aboard the ship or setting up your itinerary. After working there, I had an opportunity to work at Disney for about a year and a half. And on there, I worked on themed landing pages for the parks, employee related applications really related to the park entrance. So if you've ever gone to Disney and you tried to sign in with your ticket, there's a whole suite of tools that we worked on while I was at Disney, and a couple of things related to restaurant features, right? Later, I was able to continue working here in Miami, locally at the Popeyes office for about 3 months, where I was working on their apps, their kiosk, and their web pages, integrating menu items and other features. And now, actually, this month is going to be a year of my anniversary working at Verizon, specifically working on the web pages and websites for TracFone, Straight Talk, Simple Mobile, and their entire suite of prepaid brands under the Verizon umbrella. One thing I want to note from this kind of journey with multiple teams is that I highly recommend everyone on here who deny any opportunity to hang out with your team outside of work, right? If that's a happy hour, if that's an exercise, it gives you a great chance to learn about them as people, as professionals, and build that engagement. And when you do it, take a picture. It's going to be a great memory and a great proof, like a great bit of social proof if you ever need to show it to other peers, right? The last thing I want to share about myself is a shameless plug. I'm also a business owner, and I've been running this business, Toma Domino, for over 2 years. It's an e-commerce website running on Shopify where I sell high-quality domino sets with a diverse set of designs. And I really recommend anybody who's in UX design or wants to get into UX design to take a stab at starting your own business, because it gives you an opportunity to not only put on that designer hat that you're signing up for, but also put on that business stakeholder cap, right? Because you're going to be making decisions that are focused on the visual and the experience, but also on the commercial. And it really changes your perspective when it's your money on the line that you're trying to grow and multiply for your own business, right? When you're making those UX decisions. Now, that's enough about Matt. Who's ready to talk about AI? Now it's going to be quiet because nobody can unmute, but that's okay, because it doesn't matter because everyone's already talking about AI. I don't know about you guys, but every time I open my LinkedIn, I am just flooded with posts and updates about the latest AI thing that's now integrated into Figma that's going to make it so you never have to connect a prototype. Or, hey, did you hear about this new tool that makes it completely obsolete to code anymore? And all of these other things happening on social media that, to me, make me feel, one, overwhelmed and like I'm behind every second that I'm on LinkedIn, right? Maybe you guys face this problem too. Now, before we move forward, I'm going to warn everybody in the call today. The rest of this presentation is going to have an unhealthy amount of America's favorite educational characters, AI-generated Muppets. Okay, so if you have a phobia of Muppets, now is the time to leave. With that being said, what usually happens to me is I'll be looking at this kind of information, right, on LinkedIn, and I'm trying not to be pessimistic about it. I'm trying to be positive and say, man, it would be so cool to try out these tools, to give them a shot, or this might be the next step in my career path, right? We're always trying to look at ways to grow, or there's a course that I could probably take. But the reality is I never dedicate enough time to practice those tools, right? Instead, I think to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I could do this in my 9 to 5, in my job, right? Like, I have a personal philosophy that when you're at work, it should be an opportunity to grow as a professional as well. Unfortunately, it's not as straightforward as I'd like that to be, for reasons that there are often blockers when I'm at work and I'm trying to play with these tools, right, and explore. And it's unfortunate because every day at your job should be an opportunity for you to grow as a professional, either within that company or if you ever want to find another career path elsewhere. But how can you do that when our industry is constantly moving towards this AI kind of generation of work, and you can't practice it while you're at work. You're kind of forced to do it outside of work, right? But you get into that, how can I practice it for deliverables outside of work if when I'm at my job, they want a different thing and they want me to use a tool, right? So it kind of becomes a limbo of these skill sets. And I wanted to start looking at this by asking myself a question, and it's, why can't I use the tools at work? What I'm currently facing is that it's a security issue, right? Using these tools at work, any sort of AI or LLM could potentially have security risk for the company that I'm working at, right? And what I'm offered is alternate versions of those tools. Hey, we have a contract with this tool, we'll give you this instead, try it out. And I'm always hesitant to try out those tools because it kind of feels like that meme, right? Where people say, hey, I want to use ChatGPT. And they say, no, 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 we have ChatGPT at home. And it's CatGPT or something absurd, right? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. But what it gets down to is that oftentimes we're given alternate tools and we're hesitant because we don't really know if it's going to work for us, right? I'm a Figma designer. I do all this crazy UI and complex tasks. This tool that's an alternate may not be what I want, or it's not what people are showing me how to use when I'm on LinkedIn and they're talking about ChatGPT and Claude and all of these other, complex LLMs, right? So the next question I wanted to ask myself is, okay, so like, what's the big deal? I've kind of figured out why I can't use it, but what is the problem? I am at home, I use anything I want, there's no issue, but at work, suddenly it's a big deal. And I boil it down to three things, right? One, I think compliance issues are a major concern for these companies, right? I don't personally use customer information, but if you have a role that requires you to use customer information and you happen or accidentally put it into an LLM, you're going to potentially be violating laws and regulations at national and state level, right? So we always have to be cautious of that. And no company or person wants to get into any legal troubles, right? The second thing is any information you're providing about the company you're working at could be proprietary. And now you're making it public, right? You're sticking it into an LLM. It's going to be processed by a database and stored in there and then train that model, right? So now accidentally you're giving stuff that's private or valuable for that company and giving it to the public or to competitors. And the last one that we might be seeing more about, more oftentimes in the news nowadays, is like cyber attacks, right? Anytime you use an AI model, you are giving away often your email, your password, and your IP address. And if you're on a work computer, you're giving all of that information from your company to these AI companies that then cyber attackers can attack and get from your company. Right? They're not attacking you personally, they're going to attack the company you work for. And this is really relevant. I mean, just in June, we had a major attack with like 16 billion passwords being leaked. So it's important for us to keep this frame of mind whenever we're curious to play with these tools in a work-related setting, right? Now that I was able to empathize, right, with the company, right? Oftentimes I think we have a hard time doing it. It's like, it's a big bad company. They don't care about us. Right? They just want us to do whatever we want, right? But it's important to empathize because if it was us owning a business and we had this many employees, we would want to be secure as well, right? Now that we did that, I wanted to define the hack word in this topic today because it's, how do we hack AI at work, Matt? Really, hacking is like breaking the rules or bending them, and that's a problem too. Instead, I want us to reframe it and look at it like this. How do we practice safer AI use inside and outside of work whenever we want to explore, right? I break it down into three main sections. The first one is very straightforward, and that's if your company offers an alternate tool, use it, right? It's like this sock puppet. It's not a Muppet, but it's a sock puppet. You kind of get it. Makes sense, right? Good enough. And I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself, well, duh, Matt, why wouldn't I use the alternate tool? It's right there. It's in my face. I can try it. And I still want to make this a point because I remember when we were first offered a tool at work, I was hesitant. I would think to myself, this isn't going to solve the problems that a Figma designer is going to have, right? And it was only until I started playing with it more and pushing it where I could start to see it may not be a Figma specific problem that I'm solving, but something analog to my role could be solved with this alternate tool. And here's an example. So the first thing I tried to do was get a screenshot of a personal project. It was like a scuba diving buddy app, right? I don't know how to scuba dive, so let's not look at the details there. But getting that screenshot and turning it into a working piece of responsive code. And I used it first with a tool that I personally like, and that's Claude. It does a great job of converting things into code, and to me is my preference when I'm trying to learn more about AI right now, right? So I put in the PNG, a very simple phrase, can you turn this into working responsive code? And I let it do its magic. I sped it up a little bit so we're not having to see this giant wall of text for too long. And I was surprised, right, with what I got. I expected this, right? I expected it to get most of the UI components. I was surprised when I saw that the search bar was working and actually filtering things. The buttons had hover states, and even the tabs were working to a certain extent. Things that I didn't put in the prompt at all. Then I wanted to try with a tool that I've had access to previously at other roles, and that's Gemini. Now, Gemini is actually a pretty good LLM. I discovered that as I was coming up with the research for this talk. But to me, in my head, in my perspective, it felt not like a Figma or a design or a tech-related LLM. It felt like a generic, hey, give me some content, give me some answers, some questions kind of AI, right? At first, I was a little underwhelmed, but that's because I didn't do enough digging. I gave it the same prompt, I gave it the same PNG. I then thought, okay, I'm gonna have to copy this thing, put it in VS Code, hope I link it, and do more steps. But in Gemini, if you keep scrolling, they have a code visualizer called Canvas. Click on that, and boom! Now I'm getting a great preview that's very similar to what I got in Claude. There are some nuances here and there, but there's functionality that I didn't ask for that was in the prompt, and it was even more responsive than the Claude version. So that was a great moment to say, hey, let me give it a shot the next time I'm thinking about using stuff that's already provided by my job, right? The second section for this is see if you can learn about first, advocate, and then try to use privacy-focused AI tools. Now, what do I mean by that? There are tech companies out there that have noticed this gap in the market, these issues and risks with using LLMs in corporate settings or even personal settings. And they've made products to mitigate those risks. And I want to preface that these tools may not be accessible where you currently work at, right? You might try to open up a computer, open up one of these tools, and it's just not working, and that's okay. But as long as you learn about it, and maybe you can advocate it if your company is looking for other AI tools, that's a great start. And you can even use it in your personal time as well. These are the options I'd recommend. One is Brave. So Brave is actually a web browser, and it feels a lot like Google Chrome, but it's a lot more private. And they have their own built-in AI assistant called Leo. So it's kind of like Google and Gemini, right? They don't ask users to create a profile or log in. So you're never giving away your email, your password, or your IP address, only if you sign up for like their premium services, right? Which you don't really need to. I'm a big fan of like as free as you can use these tools, the better. Really, we're trying to learn, explore, and just build some AI fundamentals, right? And the other important bit about this is that AI, their Leo AI, every time it generates a response, it discards the information that you're putting through it, right? So it's never being saved, it's not training the model, and you know that it's being securely used, right? It's a one-to-one relationship with the tool. Here's a quick little demo of me kind of going through it. I really enjoy it because the UI is very familiar. When I open this, it feels like I'm going through Google Chrome, no problem, and it does a great job remembering the inputs that I'm putting in. Whenever you search up for things, it does that thing you expect in Google, right, where it gives you a little snippet of, hey, this is where you searched up, and here's a synopsis of all the answers and stuff like that. So that's really nice. And the AI is built right into the browser. So you can open it via like this little flyout tab and use it kind of like Gemini, just like that. Or if you want a more dedicated AI experience, you can open it in a whole separate tab and it'll behave a lot like ChatGPT or dedicated Gemini, right? when I was exploring through this, I thought it was really cool that you could actually change the models being used in Brave. Right? You have access to Claude, Qwen, and Llama, which is Meta's version of their LLM, at the base value, which are already pretty strong. If you want more complex ones, you can sign up for their premium version of the service. Or if you don't like any of that, you can integrate your own LLM into Brave, right? And you could get some of those from databases online. We'll talk about that in just a bit. The one thing I want to set is an expectation when using this tool and the next tool, and that's, it did feel a bit limiting, right? I didn't feel comfortable giving it very complex tasks. I even asked for some code stuff, and it was very rudimentary compared to Claude, Gemini, or some of the other popular ones out there right now, right? So try to keep it general and simple when using these, answering questions, creating and editing copy, things like that. The last bit here is no YouTube ads, which I thought was crazy. So super little personal use thing, but now it's my default browser just for that. The second tool I want to recommend is called Venice AI. And their value prop is they're an uncensored AI tool that keeps your data private. And how do they do that? The way it works is that whenever you send your inputs through Venice AI, it goes through their encrypted server and then into a decentralized network of GPUs for processing. Right? Once those GPUs process it, it goes back through the encrypted server and back to you with the response. So that means the information is never saved, right? And you know that it's going to be a lot more private than any of the other public models out there. They also allow you to swap models and even kind of have conversations with these AI generated characters that they have a base of. You know, a little bit weird sometimes. But an interesting thing about them that I enjoyed was that they have already integrated image generation right into the platform. Right? It's like a mixture of ChatGPT and Midjourney, if you've ever used Midjourney, because their UI patterns are following them a lot. You can change the style and quickly get some images generated using Venice. And the last thing is keep those expectations moderated with this tool as well. It also felt kind of rudimentary with some of the responses I was getting. And you can also change the models, right? The last tool I want to talk about is Ollama. And to me, this is the coolest one. It's a little bit harder to set up than some of the other tools, but this is how people and yourself can host your own LLM in your computer. So that means you are no longer having to communicate with any other database or server. It's all working right in your hardware. And the way this works is you go to ollama.com, you download it, and it's kind of like a feature unlock, not like an app. And then if you're on Windows, you go into your command prompt. And in your command prompt, you just start talking to it like you would at any other AI model. So you got to run in some specific codes. Hey, Ollama, run Gemma 3. That's the model we'll be running. Once it does that, it's like you're talking to ChatGPT. Hey, give me this answer to this question. And here I'm doing a little demo of talk to the folks here in the audience, say hi to them, give me some interesting topics to talk to them about. And we're going to get a super long response. Trust me, this command prompt is about to go crazy. And it was really cool. One, I felt like a huge hacker. I felt like a coder, right? Whoa, this is crazy. But I also was comfortable to know that everything I'm putting in here is going to be private. No one anywhere is going to know anything about this, right? And the last little bit, I wanted to have some fun with this thing was just, what if this thing was a Muppet? What name would it have? And now you know Ollama on my computer is called Professor Scribble, so in case you were curious. So like I said, Ollama, really interesting app to use, right? I think it's great to know that you can work with some of the technology already built into your computer, but have limited expectations. And it gives you a great perspective on why building UI for AI tools is so important, because working on this command prompt is a pain in the butt. All right, you're gonna have to click through things. You can't copy and paste as much as you'd like. Deleting stuff that you've already put is not as easy. Making image recognition prompts is also very difficult, but possible, which I thought was super cool. So it gives you a great perspective to say, hey, it's nice to have those quality of life buttons, search bars, and prompts already built into ChatGPT and these other services, right? Now, the last section I want to talk about is for everyone in the audience who says, Matt, thanks for all of the stuff you just told us. I don't like using the alternate stuff I have at work. And I love all these privacy focused tools, but it's just not going to work out. I want to use the stuff that I want to use, that I want to use at my job, right? And all I'm going to say is this. We're going to try our best to figure out ways to safely use any AI model we want in our personal device for work-related purposes. Right? We're going to try, emphasis, because I'm not a lawyer. And the one thing I want to, I guess, preface is 3 rules, and that is always use a personal device on a personal network that's not connected to your company's network or devices, so you limit that exposure. 2, review and toggle any and all security settings for the tool you want to use. Nowadays, you can go on any AI tool, go to their settings, and they have either a privacy, a security, or like a data setting section, and it allows you to opt out of a lot of the settings that store your information and train these models, right? And that's what we're trying to avoid, limit that exposure. And the last thing is when you're actually sending these prompts, do your best to avoid and omit sensitive information. Right? All of that stuff, once it's in that database, it's super hard to take out. A lot of people don't even know where it goes once it goes into a database, right? It just continues to train that model. So keep it as generic as possible when you're prompting the models. Here are 3 ways that I personally try to explore this generic and safe use that you might be able to use in your day-to-day. One is setting up hybrid design workshops. I'm very much a collaborative partner when it comes to my roles. I enjoy going into the office, being with my team and working on the whiteboard, getting sticky notes out, sketch pads, all that, and working together collaboratively. My problem, and maybe you face this as well, is when you work with hybrid teams, it's really hard to get that same engagement across the digital landscape, because people who are on the computer might feel left out. They may not feel as engaged as the people in the room. So I wanted to use Claude in a way to make a design brainstorm session with a hybrid team. The way I did it was I kept it very generic with the prompt. I gave it details about what I wanted to get out, but I didn't give it details about where I work at or what exactly it is that I do. Simply asking it for a brainstorming session for a checkout flow optimization. That could be any checkout flow of any sort of item on the market, right? And say hybrid, not letting them know where these people work at, where I work at, or what company we work at, right? The only detail I gave it was FigJam. Give it to me in a way that I could structure it for a FigJam exercise. It gave me some text prompts and some steps, but I wanted to take it a step further. So I asked it to visualize it with code, just so I could have a better time looking through this, then going to my FigJam and building it out for my team to use. I think it's really important when we use any AI to think about how do we get responses that help us with concepts or with tools to help build the actual deliverable. I personally feel that I don't have the comfort in getting an AI generated response and using that as the deliverable. I still want to be the main person creating this thing that will then be handed off to another team, right? But using an AI tool to help me facilitate that deliverable, to me, gives me much more confidence, right? The second strategy I wanted to try out was converting sketches to code, right? Just to get an initial idea and validation of the ideas going in my head. And the way we did that was super easy, taking a picture of a sketch and then putting it into the model. We used Claude as well. I was much more detailed with what I wanted to see from the sketch, but because the sketch really didn't have any personal information or private information, it was able to do whatever it needed to do. We made it for something very serious, a hot dog builder, because why not, right? It's important for us to play and have a good time. And I also think it's important for us to input things into the LLM that have nothing to do with our job. They may give us UI components that we can use for things in our job, but now we're limiting that connection to the actual role and trade of our company, right? So we got this great little hot dog builder that showed us a preview of the hot dog, some options, and surprised me with how well it came out from just a sketch. And this is the sketch right here. I know you can't really see this too well, but I promise you, it's just a white box and a couple of things that look like UI components. So I highly recommend everyone give this a shot, even if it's just for that wow factor. And the last thing I tried out was getting a quick idea of how that same mobile design might work for desktop. I don't know about y'all or the folks in this call, but I always have this pain point wherever I'm starting with mobile designs, and then when I need to transition into desktop, if we don't have the clearest guidelines, it almost feels like a lot of different ways that we can interpret that responsiveness, right? How do we use this wider grid? How do we expect people to change the way they're going to behave versus tapping into clicking and typing with the keyboard and mouse, right? And so Claude allowed me to do this very easily. Once again, super generic and actually very bare bones prompts. 1 or 2 sentences because I wanted to be quick with it. I don't like wasting my time when I'm trying to explore with AI because ultimately we still need to hand off deliverables. So we gave it that same code from the previous mobile hot dog builder and just asked it, hey, give me a desktop version of this. The first one was great. I didn't expect it to come up with something that had this side panel and like a main preview. And that really opened my ideas for what this could build. But then it was broken. It was super broken. Like the hot dog was on top of the options and things like that. And we could have probably prompt engineered it a bit better. But still, it gave me an opportunity to think differently and try something else when we want to transition into desktop for our mobile screens. Now, I don't know about y'all, but all that hot dog talk got me a little hungry. And if you're still hungry, I'm going to leave you with some last words as a little bit of a sweet dessert, right? And it's, please, never use a tool that you think can jeopardize you or your role, right? Ultimately, our job can be our main financial source in order to survive and feed ourselves and our families. So don't risk that, right? That's really important. 1, communicate with your organization and your team if you're hesitant about using any of the tools, right? If your company has a dedicated legal team or AI governance group, use those resources because they're great partners to learn how to navigate this progression of AR in our professional lives. 2, try to use the tools provided by your organization first. I need to repeat that because I was hard-headed when they first came out with some of the tools at my job. But you might be surprised, and they were acquired for a reason. Those contracts and relationships with those tools make it so that the company feels a lot more secure when using that AI model. And lastly, keep the really crazy personal, exploration personal. There's a lot of cool stuff out there and a lot of great things you can do with your Figma files, with things that you just want to code without even touching Figma. But disable those sharing and storage settings if you really think privacy is paramount when you're using them, and be aware of the information you're providing because it's always going to be stored and could potentially be referenced later on. Ultimately, we're all still figuring out how to navigate the AI landscape together, and I'm sure there's a whole boatload of other options and tools and strategies that we can use. But just try to do your best part to respect you and your company's information while you discover and continue to play with AI. And with all that, everybody, thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass it back over to the team.
Thank you so much, Mathew. Let's give it up for Mathew. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing all those tips, and I think I'll definitely use some of these in my day-to-day, and look at some of the private options. I think those are interesting. First time that I hear about some of those. But let's move to our Q&A section. I know Beto already opened up the Q&A. We see a question there. But yeah, feel free to add it into the Q&A section, or also unmute yourself and ask Mathew directly. So Mathew, we have a question from Violetta. I hope I'm saying that name right. It says, "Hi, great. How can teams bridge the AI adoption gap when there is a disconnect between tech-savvy early adopters and skeptical stakeholders without slowing down innovation or creating shadow workflows?"
Okay. I'm going to be completely transparent. I have no idea what shadow workflows is, but I will Google that afterwards. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is setting up a space for people to talk about it together and then engaging with the tool together, right? So if you're all in office, it would be great to set up a meeting, have everybody sit down, talk about what resources are currently available within that company and start playing with it. Or if you can't do that, trying to use a personal device, hopefully you can get a VPN or a personal hotspot or something like that, and playing it with those people there. If it's in a hybrid scenario or completely remote, trying to do the same thing digitally might be really helpful, right? Ultimately, the more we can spread information about the things that we're learning to other teams that may not have the same insight, the better it'll be, right? Because they may be very comfortable chatting with us since we're internal and we're kind of those first go-getters, looking at the tools and building the courage to try to send that prompt, to try to do this crazy task and see if it'll do it. And a lot of other roles in companies may not need to do this as much. They may not know that AI is coming or how to integrate it with their role. But if you set up a space for folks to learn about something and just play around for 5-10 minutes, obviously in a way that doesn't, hopefully use any information from the company, then it might create that aha moment that a lot of us have had when we first opened up these AI tools, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. Hope that answers your question, Violeta. Any other questions? Feel free to post them in the chat or, unmute. Well, I guess you can't unmute yourself. So yeah, just post it in the chat, Q&A.
We got one here.
There's a new question from Tiffany. What tasks have or more complex since adopting?
I think the complex part is the things that make me the most valuable as a UX designer work with AI. Like I haven't figured that out. Big deliverables, like an actual end-to-end Figma prototype and flow that might work directly with code, I don't feel comfortable giving any of that sort of agency to an AI tool. And I don't have access to a lot of the stuff that's been coming out for Figma, right? So that's my limitation. We got to work around that. But some of the things that have been easier are a lot of those simple tasks that we probably are doing nowadays. But I've noticed, it sounds silly, but we work a lot with screenshots and turning these screenshots into screens, right, for Figma and to then be optimized and add features and stuff like that in code, right? But some of these screenshots are filled with text, right? Maybe a lot of legalese or instructions for customers. And I just grab that screenshot, stick it into an AI and tell it, hey, extract the text. Now, you can stay on that web page and just try to copy and paste it, but sometimes the text is an image, right? Or the text is in a chart and it's really tricky to try to copy and paste it, but I'll just stick it in there and boop, gives me like a really nice formatted version of that. Or I have also seen myself having to come up with copy for experiences, right? Lorem ipsum, at least in my personal experience, has not cut it. It just doesn't do a great job of telling the story and the expectation of the experience. I'm like, how are you going to tell me lorem ipsum when someone's trying to buy a product and they need to know how it works, how much it costs, and what to do once they get it? Lorem ipsum is just not going to give you that detail. So AI has sometimes been a great help in that. I still try to use my own brain to make those initial copy concepts, but we'll run it through AI and tell me, hey, give me some iterations and maybe we'll figure out some other options to then refine with a dedicated content team, which we're fortunate to have in my role.
Awesome. Great answer. Thanks, Matthew. Any other questions from folks? And we'll just give it another 20 seconds before it becomes.
I will ask them a question if they're not going to ask me a question, Jonathan.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's a silly question. Okay, I'm a silly guy, so I need to know, what is your favorite Muppet? Okay, you got to write it in the chat. Don't do it in the Q&A because then you'll blow up the Q&A. Write it in the chat. And if you don't know what Muppets are, do a quick Google search and come back.
It's a good question. All right, let's see.
We got Cookie Monster. I agree with the Cookie Monster, Jackie. That's my favorite.
He's a grumpy cool guy.
And we got Miss Piggy. Elmo is ultimate meme. That's like the best one. Well, and you have Kermit. They're both really good. I love it. I love it.
Monster, Cookie Monster, Beaker, Big Bird.
When you Google search, you don't realize there's so many characters. Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah. It's insane. It's insane.
that's awesome. Great question.
The big yellow bird.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and just finish the Q&A. Thanks again, Matthew. And
of course.
let's move on to the next section. And so we are actually giving a gift card away. So this is very exciting for a lucky winner who will receive a $50 gift card plus free shipping. And you can redeem this in the Figma official store. So you can get some Figma swag. So something to note, though, is these gift cards are only redeemable in countries where the Figma store currently ships. So unfortunately, if you're in a country where the Figma store doesn't ship, then yeah, so I apologize in advance if you're the lucky winner. But Mathew, go ahead, Jackie.
Yes, sorry. I just saw one new question actually from Rachel.
Okay.
I don't know if we have time to answer one more question, but the question is, what common trends in large language models hinder achieving a desired goal or accurate answer? And how can prompt editing help avoid them? It's actually within the chat, not the Q&A. I don't know if you can see the question, Matt.
Yep.
I'm checking that out right
Thanks,
now.
Jackie.
For sure, it's all about the prompt. A million. I think it feels cumbersome to come up with a detailed prompt. You just want something, give me something, boom, boom, done, right? But I've noticed when you really take the time to do the thinking and the problem solving before you even touch the keyboard, you get closer to what you need with less inputs. And in our career, where we're talking about front end, maybe going into back end, or UI turning straight into code, the more we can figure out what we need before we even type, the more time we're going to save. Because I've noticed, and maybe you guys have felt this too, when you try to get coding done in AI, I hate waiting for that thing to load all the code. And then when you're done adding it, if it doesn't have a great job of just changing certain features and it needs to rewrite the whole thing, that's a lot of time you're spending editing and waiting for this thing to code, especially if you're just trying to get like a proof of concept and you're not trying to build it right there. So I think prompt engineering still feels like a very handy tool for all of these things. But it'd be nice to see something in the future where, hey, we're just talking to it. It feels a lot more normal and conversational. I'm sure there's some stuff that already exists like that, but I'm still stuck on the kind of text-heavy prompt engineering stuff.
Awesome.
Thanks,
That's
Matthew. Thanks, Rachel, for submitting that question.
Thank you. Yes, sir. So, we have another question.
Okay. There's more. Okay, there's a question by...
Yeah, we have time. We have time. No worries.
Okay.
There's 2 questions. Yeah, the question is, in which phases of the design process do you find AI help most?
For me, Eva, I feel the most comfortable using it in the brainstorming part, right? Like, help me figure out how to set up a workshop, because I'm not a pro at setting them up. I'm just kind of winging it. Hey, I think if we do this, we'll get the right response. But maybe by asking it for a bunch of workshop ideas, it'll jog my mind and give me other things I didn't even think about, right? Or, hey, this is my sketch. Give me some other ideas of the sketch. Because as we all know, we're all making educated assumptions when we're working. Right? They're only really validated by user feedback. So in that brainstorming part of the design process, if we get more ideas, we could be better curators of those ideas, right? And hopefully get more successful results early on when we're trying to get that proof of concept, right? Or that MVP. And the second question from Violeta is, what's one thing you wish more teams understood about security or privacy before they start using AI at work? I honestly think when doing research for this, I'm not a big security buff, y'all. Like, I didn't really care. Like, hey, I'm going to put whatever in AI, and I'm just curious to see what happens, and why not? You know, I'm not the guy who clears the cookies all the time or uses a privacy-focused browser. But doing the research, that in the privacy policy for a lot of these companies, your information is out there and could potentially be used or referenced by the government, by legal institutions, by the business, and sold to advertisers if they're not that responsible with it. And that recent cyber attack that happened in June with all the passwords just put back in the forefront that, unfortunately, our data, our information, our digital fingerprint of who you are as a person is available to a lot of people. And if those people are malicious, you're going to be caught in the crossfires. You're going to have to deal with that. And so I kind of wish more people played with privacy focused things and didn't think about it as like a boring topic or something that really doesn't matter, because I also felt that way. And it was only after I tried out like that Brave browser where I said, hey, this is kind of exactly like what I'm already using, but it better in terms of security. So I'm just going to use it. Why not? You know, and it's just that little shift that I wish more people had. Yeah, always going to be transparent, y'all. Always going to try.
Thank you.
Great question. Well, with that, following the same format with the Q&A, Mathew, I'm going to ask you a question. From all the great questions asked, which one was the best one?
Okay. I already have my pick. I already know who's going to get it. And it's going to be Violeta. Really, because I did not know. Hold on, I got to see the word again. I think it was like shadow workflows. I got to look that up afterwards. I like learning something. You know, you piqued my curiosity and taught me something. But also that second question was great. And it's just figuring out how do we highlight stuff for more people to take this stuff at least somewhat serious and play with it more in terms of security. So for me, it's going to be Violeta. Congrats.
Woohoo. All right. Violeta, congratulations. Thank you for asking such thoughtful questions. So yes, I will be, if you can just remain until the end, and we'll give you the information so you can redeem that $50 for some Figma swag. So
Nice.
congratulations.
Congrats.
And with that, I'll hand it off to Beto so he can go over the next sessions. Because remember, this is a tour.
Yep, that's right. I just wanted to add something on the security portion. Always think about the cost, about the cost of basically you guys messing it up, right? Because it can be really, really bad. Aside from the cybersecurity attacks, there was a case on Samsung employees that they used these LLMs, and they provided details from a product before launch. So that went out there. So that's a big messed up. In the US, have been cases of lawyers using, AI to provide, kind of like for these cases, but there were hallucinations of the AI. So the support documents for the fake, basically. So just think about that type of cost, right? So just wanted to add to the that portion on the security. Okay, so aside from that, the world tour continues, right? So, before the wrap up, it's just a quick heads up of the next sessions. So we have our friends in Seattle. So they have a session about the compiler generation. So that's on the top of the hour. and then our folks of Porto Alegre. So you switch the slide, the metrics that matter. So feel free, to scan the QR code so you get access to those sessions, and those are coming right up next after this one. Aside from that, Jackie, you want to talk about if there's any feedback that people want to share?
Yes, sure, of course. So before we wrap up, we would really love your feedback. This event is made by the community for the community, and your voice helps us shape an even better experience for next year. So if you can, just scan the QR code you're seeing on your screen right now and share your thoughts. Help make our Friends of Figma World Tour even better in 2026. So this is a pilot. We want to have a much better one next year. So please feel free to send us any comments, suggestions by scanning the QR code.
I'm going to reiterate what Jackie's saying. Do it. It's a short survey and they do listen. You're looking at the people who set up the events. So if you're local to Florida, South Florida, anywhere near here, they're going to read it and actually apply.
All right. And now, just to wrap up, thanks again, everyone, to joining in. If you're in Miami, for the folks that are outside, feel free to reach out to us. More than happy to have coffee with you guys. Or if you are in Miami, and you're more than welcome to an event, right? So feel free to, sign up for the chapter in Miami, so you get notice on the next event. Usually we do this once every quarter, like live events in person. So you have the chance to actually meet us in real life, not here virtually. And to wrap up is basically that, right? There's several cities, folks around the world trying to do this for you guys, free. Basically, it's free. The information is power, right? So you're learning several things through all the chapters around the world, through all the different cultures that there are, right? So feel free to join to the next two sessions after this. And it's just a powerful reminder that the best things don't happen in isolation, right? It's all about collaborating, and that's a real impact to make these things happen. As I think Mathew, yes, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn as well. All of us, I think, just put our names in LinkedIn, and that's how you can reach out to all of us. So really, from all of us, Friends of Figma, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, until next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good one. Y'all got some sleep.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.